part of today is a program of Complere Studio, which you can find at complere.studio. And we have been offering these free AI working sessions for almost a year and a half at this point, and almost every week. And the point of these is to dive into tools that we all have access to, or tools that are emerging, or processes that we want to understand how we might use AI, and consider these sort of the entry level 101 offerings that we have. And then we, as you can see on the screen, we'll come back to these later. We are about to launch a three-session series that is really going to what we call the foundation of moving into AI-enabled work. And we do cover this sort of intro to what laying the foundation is in other sessions, but essentially it's getting to governance, policy, process, identifying what use cases we have, and then getting to what a pilot might look like. And so, highly encourage you to check that out because it will give you a lot of confidence and understanding and how to use AI effectively. So, and then you can see the other offerings here, but just want to jump to our About page, and you can find information about Will and I here. Dive into our LinkedIn's if you want to. I am a 25-year nonprofit philanthropy professional and have sort of stumbled into AI and technology by building something called Complere.ai, which is a research evaluation planning tool that anybody can subscribe to. And it's an evidence-based tool for you to do program planning, self-assessment, proposal writing, proposal review, strategic planning. It's a powerful tool for driving impact in your work. That has sort of, and we'll dive into it a bit later, but that's sort of how I got into AI. And then I'll hand it to my collaborator, Will, who is the real sort of technology pro and going to bring a lot to this conversation.
Thank you, Ryan. Yes, Will Mendoza Torrico. I have about now 8 years of experience in nonprofit slash philanthropy. I come more from the technology corporate side, worked a lot on corporate strategy. 5 years ago, while I was at Cisco, learned about AI, realized this is a technology that is going to change drastically how we work, sort of the email of the late 90s, right? And because of that, started working around AI for process optimization. That's my area of expertise, strategy and process optimization. And I've been joining now Ryan for over a year in doing these sessions, driving knowledge and trying to share all of this with you all, and very, very excited to be working on this. I think today is going to be a very interactive and good session for us to give you some pointers, so when you walk away, you have already some actionable things that you can start doing in your own workflows.
Awesome. Thanks, Will. So we're going to do really, I think, three or four phases of our conversation today. First one will be just simple tour through the Google Workspace and where Gemini lives and how to use it. And then Will is going to walk us through a bit more complex use of AI and how to sort of, or use of Gemini. Um, and then, we'll dive into another use case that I will demonstrate for you using Gemini. So we'll go from basic to a bit more complex. And we've learned in a lot of these sessions that if you haven't used AI a lot, you can get to overwhelm really quickly, and that's okay because this is where most of us are at this sort of novel, novice use case level where it's like, I tried it in my personal context, but I haven't really figured out how to do it in my professional setting. But I know it's important to figure out. So if you feel that, that's okay. This is a first step in that process. And that's why Will and I are here, is to be a resource to you. And in this setting, we're focusing on Gemini. We're not trying to sell you on Google Workspace or Gemini. We're not paid by Google to do this. It's just a powerful tool that is at the fingertips of most of us, and we want to make sure you understand how to use it. And I think maybe last thing is feel free to ask questions in real time on the chat, raise your hand, and we'll try and pay attention to call on you. And then we'll try and save time at the end also to get into some discussion.
We're a small group today, so take advantage. Come on camera if you can, if you feel comfortable, and let make it as interactive as you need, because we're here to answer all the questions you may have.
Awesome. So this is Gemini as its standalone chat interface. And so just want to show you that, and if you're using, however we entered the generative AI space, you may have just gotten a promo from ChatGPT. So you have ChatGPT on your phone or whatever it is. But you can also use Gemini as a standalone and have it just up on your computer, on your phone, and have it be your sort of default tool if you'd like, especially if you're already a subscriber through your Google Workspace. You can be a bit more integrated. Just like all of them, you can see histories of chats, that sort of thing. And I'm not going to do a bunch of chatting right now because I'll get a chance to do that later. But just wanted to show that to you. Similarly, in your email, this little button up here, if you click on it, you can say, find an email, where I emailed, uh, and it's going to go find emails where I may have sent Will a message, and hopefully it doesn't, say anything it shouldn't, but uh, it's a different way to search. You can actually search based on content, based on themes, so it's a way to sort of interact with email differently. This is Google Sheets. Similar, you click on the button or the little star up here. You can basically just ask it to do the things you want it to do. So if you want it to do conditional formatting on anything that's below 1.0 in column I, you can do that sort of formatting work as natural language into the Gemini interface. If you want to sort of do different things in the spreadsheet, my encouragement to you is just to try the prompting that you want to do. So like uh, this is a software sheets and spreadsheets in the Microsoft interface where it's like many of us have learned some basic formatting, but a lot of us don't know more of the complex things. So this AI gives us more opportunity to sort of interact with the information differently. Similarly, in this is inside my drive. So when you hit the little star inside your drive, this interface pops up. I already selected a few files that I want to pull from my drive to chat with that information to say, okay, what is this saying? What are themes across this? I actually asked in this use case to design a 5 slide deck outline based on this information. So if you're inside your drive, you don't even have to open the files really. You can just sort of add them to the context window, which is here. So you can go find them, add them in there, and then you can have interaction just based on that content you give it. Moving to Google Docs, this is sort of similar interface. Here's the star. You can do things from asking it to format, edit, turn this outline into more of a paragraph narrative, and it will do those things for you. So you're getting the point. This exists throughout your interface. Uh, what we tell people in our sort of AI How-To 101 is start by using um, your integrated workspace tools first before you start thinking you have to go out and buy everybody else's tool to do the tasks you need, especially if your organization or you personally are paying for access to the Google Workspace with Gemini incorporated into it. And so just wanted to show you that. And I'm sort of speeding through showing you that so that I can get to Will, who's going to show you a bit deeper work using Gemini. But with that, I think I've covered it. I think the last thing was just Google Slides, which, has a similar interface, but they're all the same depending on which part of the platform you're in. So with that, I want to hand it back to Will, who's going to walk us through developing some prompting and how to apply it using Gemini.
Thank you, Ryan. Couple of questions in the chat. Privacy consideration. That is a really good question. If you have Gemini in your workspace, then it is private. It's the LLM is not getting trained on your data. you have your Google Drive, you have your workspace, just as you would normally do in your organization, where your IT has created the users, the folders that can be shared, etc. All the IT policies are in place, and they're followed the same way by Google Workspace. If you want more powerful use and you want a Gemini Pro, you can work with Gemini restricted even more. But to start with, if you're using it inside your Google Workspace in your organization, you don't have to worry about it. You know, they claim, let's not. I don't want to be naive and tell you that it's 100% secure, but their claim is that none of this information gets out of your tenant and your organization. So it wouldn't. If you do not have a paid Google Workspace and you're using your Gmail, you do have still access to a basic Gemini version. That one is not confidential. Your data is going, and anything you put into Gemini will go to the training or will become available to the models. So that's something to keep in mind. Thanks for that question. So let me share my screen. This is where we would normally start. This is where I would normally start, right? It's a new tab within my Google Chrome. I have a Google Workspace subscription, and you have a little 9 buttons, dots on the top right there that allows you to get to your applications. And as you can see, you have them all here. We're going to go to Gemini to start with. I like this darker setting. You can have it the way that Ryan had it, more light, but I like working here. And as you can see, you have here the option of having your tabs. You can have a new chat, search, images, etc. And this is basically what it looks like. The two things that I want you to keep in mind as you're using Gemini is the ability to select basic models. That's sort of the level of smartness, if you want, of the tool. And Flash is a really fast one. If you just want something quickly done, check this email, help me write it more clearly. Help me write this really good email as a response to whatever. The thinking one is more for problem solving, and that's probably where you want to do some of your prompting and the work that we're about to do right now. And the pro, the advanced ones, that will be if you're going to do some coding and in some process optimization that we touch on in deeper sessions we do later. But for now, you can stay at Flash or you can go to the thinking one. I like to work in the thinking one. What we're going to do now is take advantage of some of the resources that Gemini gives you. And those are here in the plus button. And we're going to do something that I appreciate from Gemini, which is one of the best tools for deep research. It goes and gets you, unlike the chat bot that is question, answer, back and forth, the deep research goes and fetch the information that you need. In order to be effective, it requires a little bit of prompting, a little bit of creating that. So instead of going directly there, we're going to build the prompt first here in Gemini, and then we're going to open a new chat, copy and paste that prompt, and have it run with it. So I would like to get from you guys a suggestion, a couple of suggestions. So what will be something that you want in your line of work that you want to get some more understanding, sort of a high level? Gemini, none of the LLMs will get you a deep research analysis of your area, of your location. That is much more complex. This goes and searches the web. But if you're trying to get a high level sense of something that is happening in your industry or something that you want a deeper dive, a 10 to 15 page summary of something that is happening, what would that be? And I'm going to open that for a second. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so I can look at the questions. What are
Question.
donors to independent schools looking to read in impact reports?
Oh, they're creating their impact report, and I think she's asking what donors would be interested to read about relevant to independent schools.
So, what are donors interested to read about when it comes to independent schools? That is a good start. Let's start asking Gemini. Gemini, your role here is going to be of an assistant to me. You're going to help me write a prompt that I can use in Gemini Deep Research. And I want to look at what donors are interested in reading when it comes to impact reports for independent schools. Uh, One of the tips that I want to share with you guys is that I have another app that I'll show you in a second, LLM app that I can dictate so I don't have to type. And I'm horrible at typing and make a lot of mistakes. So I just speak and then he puts it there into the chat and sort of gives the LLM the text directly. One of the styles that I recommend to people who are starting to do prompting, they're starting to use a chatbot, is that um, yes, you can study, take courses, and become really, really good at prompt engineering, but you don't have to. There's iterative work. You can go back and forth with the LLM, and it will help you. You ask questions, you clarify, you are the expert on your field. So when they create something like this, you can tell it, no, no, this is not exactly what I wanted. I want this to be tweaked. And I'm basically building the prompt. I could go a few iterations here and go into more detail, but I'm going to take this as face value just as a demo for right now. And probably I would read this and go back and say, hey, I'm more interested in the Northeast, or I'm looking at Houston, Texas specifically. Just get a little bit deeper. But I do have a prompt here. And because I told it that this is for deep research, it has created a structure of what a deep research prompt would be. And I am going just simply to copy the prompt as it is. And I'm going to open a new chat window. And I'm going to select and make sure that I have my thinking LLM model. I am going to come down here and look for deep research as an option. The source is the web. I could, for somebody who has confidential documents, I could tell it I want the research to be done only on these files. But in this case, I'm using the web and I am
And Will,
pasting the prompt.
can I double click on that a second? So I think
Yes.
Erica, the best version of this is probably doing what Will is doing and then uploading your outputs. So like kids that are graduating, whatever your impact metrics are, and then it'll go to the web and incorporate what your metrics are and give you sort of relativity of your metrics to what it finds on the web. And I think one thing I'll call out in that prompting is that may be in there, but since we didn't read it carefully, is whether you're actually asking it to go find peer-reviewed research or, what sort of quality of information you're looking for. Because I think especially when you're doing that kind of work, you have to be really clear about the quality of information. Otherwise, it may go find one quote on a website somewhere about independent schools being amazing or the worst things in the world. And that is by no means like peer-reviewed information to inform how you think about it. So just a quick comment on sort of as you develop the prompt and give it context.
That is an excellent point. That is true. I oversimplifying and going really, really fast on this, but it gives you the option to modify, adapt it, and you there it goes. This is the difference between the chatbot, where you go back and forth, one question, one answer, in the deep research. Now it just runs independently. This is what, if you have been listening in the news, you've heard agentic or agents, agent mode is when it goes and does until it finds you the answer rather than interacting with you back and forth. Couple of best practices here for you guys while we're running this process live to consider. One, if you, like me, don't like typing, but this is an open source tool called handy.computer. You can download it, download the LLM, and it does you press a key, I press left control, and then it dictates to anything. Best practice for deep research. The size of documents that deep research gives you from the web are no more than 20 pages. This is based on tokens, but to simplify it, maximum 20 pages with the resources, with the links, with the updates, etc. If you are looking for an in-depth document, not just an executive summary, but you want in-depth analysis, it will hit that wall of 20 pages, and then around page 14, 16 starts condensing everything and dropping some of the material because it's looking for completeness. It's trying to finish the report, and if there's more information, it will just make a quote-unquote judgment call and just drop information. So if you're looking for heavy analysis, split it. The scientific term is chunking. That's what IT people call it. You split it into chunks and you ask it to do it separately. So you get one topic, you do the research, you do the other topic, you do the research. You put all those documents together, and then you ask Gemini again to do a deeper analysis. It is running right now the analysis itself. If there's any questions about this, happy to
Yeah.
answer them.
Well, there is a question. Letitia asked, can you explain the concept of tokens? I've heard this terminology, but not sure what that means.
Yes, absolutely. AI, as much as we want to believe because of the name artificial intelligence, it is not. It's not an intelligent being. It's a predictive model. It's probabilistic. They basically have trained algorithms that look into what is the probability based on all the information that has been given that the next word is the one that makes sense and the one that you're looking for. In order to do that, in order to build sentences, it breaks it down into words. And being computer, right, it doesn't know words. It's basically algorithms. So it is a token. Token, it's the representation of that hexadecimal binary allocation that is built into. It's not one-to-one, so it's not one letter, one word, one token. I think it's 70%, don't quote me on this. But when people talk about tokens, it's basically talking about the amount of information that the LLM is going to give you back in a conversation. The latest models have 1 million tokens as their context window, the amount of information that they can remember. That equates to probably 200 pages at a time that it can manage. You'll be surprised how fast you burn through those. But to your question, the token, it's you can think about it, a word is probably going to be a couple of tokens in the way that Anthropics, Google, OpenAI, the companies behind these large language models charge you, and they measure how much usage you do every day. It's based on token consumption or word usage. I hope that helps to clarify.
Well, and I'll just say, having developed an AI platform, token burn is a real compute cost. It actually does cost resources, money, and energy to produce that, which is why we have large data centers emerging because we're processing a lot more information, which takes a lot of energy to operate. And so the reason you see cutoffs in platforms or slowdowns, if you've experienced that, is because that has a real cost. And so the platforms are getting smarter at like slowing you down as a user or cutting you off at some point because there's a real cost to it. And it's important that you do that because if you truly had unlimited AI access, we would burn through significant amounts of energy as a society beyond what we're already doing. And so it's the limits on your subscriptions is valuable in that we preserve sort of energy and helps you to sort of regulate your use a bit.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ryan. That's absolutely true. And um, the basic $20 subscription, it is if you think about it, it's mainly subsidized, right? You get access to these tools and a heavily discounted rate if you try to go the route of dollar token that you can buy. I, in my practice, building tools and hoping and helping people in process optimization, I can burn $200 and up in a week easily working with these tools. So as you can see here, we have the output. It has done the research. We did not ask for an executive summary. I probably would have if I was going back and forth, but we have some analysis. It's maybe 10, 15 pages. It's got some information here that might be a starting point for you to get educated. Deep research, I would never consider this as the final answer to a question that I have, that this is where I start. And something that deep research for me is my go-to tool over ChatGPT or Claude, Anthropics, even though they have deep research availability and capability, is that the resources are really well cited here. You can go and double check them. You will have the option here to export as a document to your Google Drive or copy the content if you want to do something with this besides just having the report. This is the answer. This is the result of the analysis. Something that you can do with this, it is what Ryan had shared with you a little earlier, the integration of Gemini into your tool. I have here a small folder with tags, AI highlights, and impact report around AI that they're building. And I could upload that deep research here and then ask Gemini to do some analysis and look for insights and see where it connects. As you can see, it's 14 pages long. And I'm going to move my document to my drive where I have the demo here. And I will ask Gemini. I have uploaded to this folder a deep research about an impact report. I would like you to take that Word document and compare it to the documents from TAG and tell me if there are any correlations or insights that we can draw from those four. And the availability of Gemini inside your Google Workspace is that it allows you to connect the documents that you use. And this is not going to the LLM. This is not available to anyone but the people in your organization that you've shared this folder with, or if it is a personal use and it's doing the reading. I would not take this face value. I will always have my eye read it, double check it. AI makes some outlandish claims, but it's a place to start. It's finding correlations between K-12 research and tag. It's giving you the summary. Here, the benefit is that it gives you the links of where those are mentioned, and then you can do some double checking and make sure that it's actually hitting the questions that you're looking for. So this is at a high level view, the option to do, again, deep research. You take your question, you leverage it, you leverage Gemini to get you the prompt. Again, I simplified it here, but you go a couple of times and you get to a good prompt that you want to use. With that, you feed it into a new chat window, you select deep research, and you allow a deep research to go and fetch all that information for you, get it into a document form that you can read or share it. In my case, I share it to my Google Drive folder. And if I have documents here that are related, or if I want to do some deeper analysis, I can leverage Gemini, ask a question, and go deeper into some of the analysis that we just did here.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody. Keep asking questions, raising your hands. I am going to do a little bit of an extension of what Will did, but take it a bit further down the path of strategic planning. So we've already built our prompts. We know sort of like I think one way to think about this, and this is why we talk about in sort of the 101 or 201 work, is process identification matters. So even if it's not documented, but you know, as an organization, you tend to take these steps in your annual or however often you do strategic planning. That process will help you know how to use an AI tool like Gemini more effectively, because then you can start to say, okay, what can we do at this step of our work that either is pulling information from your Google file or you're adding information. Just want to sort of call out like, we're going to go through a strategic planning use case for a few minutes. But the first step here is what is your process? And that will help you to develop a prompt, perhaps for each step of the process. So either it's helping to develop information, or it's analyzing information in your file, or it's maybe making that information accessible for discussion in your leadership group meeting. So I'm going to share my screen and then sort of, assume we've gone through some of those steps. And I think you're seeing my Gemini chat interface again. And what I did is develop a set of prompts. Let's see if I can just show you as I add these in. Uh, and you can see here on my screen, like the step one, what is the foundation? What are we focused on? What's the issue landscape? What do we know about what's happening in the community around the things we're trying to do? What are some of the options we need to consider as an organization focused on these things? And then some evaluation trade-offs. So we have to decide, we can't do everything. So based on what the research and information says that would have the most impact, how do we make the trade-off decisions? And then, as we move into recommendations or discussions to decide how do we do that. So these are all really detailed prompts that I developed ahead of time, and I've actually added them to my Google folder under a topic. Let's see if I can find it here. Where'd that go? Over here. Strategic planning prompt library. So these are, uh, and they're just downloaded as files I can add to my library. And if you're going to do this kind of work cyclically, this is a great habit to get into, which is develop the prompt. And if it's something you're going to use over and over again, even if you change how it works, save it to your Google file into a library folder, and then you can come back to it and work with it. And it'll store your history, but I've found that sometimes your history can be hard to navigate and find it. You can just chat with yourself and say, find the uh, prompt that I developed to do this, but then you're doing it every time versus knowing it's like in your library. So I'm just going to show you, and I'm actually going to sort of turn off the deep research just so we don't burn so many tokens, take so much time. Uh, and this is sort of a general strategic planning framework I laid out. So I'm saying we're planning for an organization called Hearth Connection based in St. Paul, Minnesota. So it's going to take the prompt I put here, go find information about Hearth Connection. If I were to give it any more context about the organization, it would pull that in. And then it's going to produce an output based on that prompt. And because I did Flash, it's going to give us a much quicker output and but give us sort of some good balance across the categories it's covering. And then I'm just going to show you quickly, like this is where it's like revolutionary sort of efficiency and effectiveness is turn this into a draft deck for us to review. So if like reading a bunch of paragraphs and bullets is hard for you, and people intake, everybody takes information in differently. Uh, this is going to go take that information and quickly turn it into a deck that will actually automatically get added to your drive as a draft deck with that information. So showing you that as a sort of functionality of this, it's going to generate the slides. It'll allow you to, just continue chatting with it to edit. Um, but you can get deep on information. The trickiest part is developing this prompt. And so what Will showed you about like how do we get to a prompt is a critical step because the better prompting you have, the better the inputs, the better the outputs you'll get. And so within a few seconds here, you saw it developed a deck. Um, pretty straightforward. So if you wanted to give it more design parameters, upload some of your own logos as going to your files and pulling those in. It'll add it to your document. And then this will quickly jump into your slides inside your Google Drive if you want it. I'm going to jump back over here. And one of the things I like to do is in the history, you can see quickly this. The and I think maybe Will did this intentionally earlier of just like creating a different chat, even in a different window, just because if you keep going down this path, especially with deep thinking work, the context will start to get compressed at some point, or it'll even start to forget what you did maybe in your first step. And so you sometimes if you want to sort of maintain the depth throughout prompting, you want to launch a different chat for the sort of second step of your process. So if I said step two, and it'll go it'll go find that previous chat, it'll pull in some of that context, it'll give you step two of this, and take you through the process. And just like I did, um, create that deck within a few seconds, you could ask it to pull metrics from the output and add it into a sheet. You could have it create a narrative proposal document, all within a single prompt that automatically gets added to your Google Workspace. Um, and I'll just keep cruising through some of these, and then I'm going to do a sort of experiment on whether it can pull them all together. I'll do that next time. It's hard when you've been typing all of your life and then you realize you don't have to type anymore. So you can see we're getting to some depth on strategic planning. And the one of the most important things here is, especially if you give a good context, it's going to give you pretty good outputs, but you still have to read it. Like I was spending a bunch of time yesterday responding to a couple of people on really complex development of spreadsheets and strategies. And I did spend quite a bit of time reading through every detail, but then my editing process was basically like typing in line by line, like, hey, change the context on this. This is actually a wrong data point. and you can sort of use the prompting to do the editing. We'll keep going on. I think we're on to step 4. And I think I should actually be able to like launch a new chat while it does that. Step 5. I use a different app called Whisper that does the same thing. So this is the last step in the strategic planning for Hearth Connection. And I just hold down the function key to do that. Oh, did I not up? Yeah, I did. Okay. So now what I want to do is start a new chat and say, pull together the 5 steps of strategic planning for Hearth Connection and create a discussion guide for our staff to go through a 2-hour meeting. Develop a 15-slide deck that incorporates all the information and helps us to dive into the information and get to an output that has a strategic plan at the end of the day.
While Ryan is building that, let me address a couple of the questions that I've seen on the chat altogether. Um, we're helping you see the capability of the tools here. But again, to the questions about, chunking and the structure and the quality of work, um, none of that, this is just a tool, right? None of that is possible without you spending the time ahead building your process, right? Splitting the work into sections that you go, well, if I'm looking for this level of report, this is step 1, step 2, these are the kind of questions that I'm looking for. This is the answer. This is the structure that I need. This is how I need the output to be shown. All of that is work that you do ahead of time, and then it gets added into the LLM. The more you use it, the LLM remembers, quote unquote, what, to use it to Ryan's point, you get your prompt ready with all these parts to be able to reuse it and generate, save you some time, optimize them later. But all of that comes from the effort you put in ahead of time to really think through what is the scope of what I'm looking for, what is the goal, the output, and what is the minimum quality that I'm looking for. That's the pre-work that you have to do.
I'm going to just jump really quickly to give you comparison. So, it's one plug for Complere. The reason we built Complere was based on the sort of assumption that we're not all going to become prompt engineers and maintain a prompt library. And trusting the outputs is paramount, that research and evidence that's pulled in to support critical impact-oriented decisions is really important. And so, uh, Complere is built to do that in a single click. So if you put Hearth Connection in, hit landscape analysis, within 30 seconds, you're going to get outputs that are evidence-based, structured to be essentially like research projects or papers within a few seconds that help you to inform your decision. And so the difference between like this is a purpose-built tool for nonprofits and philanthropy and what you can do inside Gemini or Claude or ChatGPT is you can build the prompts like what Will said and and um, maintain a library of those prompts to accomplish the things you need to accomplish. And I would encourage you to do that. And what you're going to see is more tools like Complere emerge that you'll have to decide, is this something that helps me do a bit better job at that kind of work? And so this produces that kind of information. Or can I get to this using Gemini? And Gemini for sure, and Copilot inside Microsoft are really great workspace tools to help you accomplish what you're going to do. Tools like Complere are sort of meant to be like they're designed to be deep thinking tools on complex issues. And that's sort of the difference between what Complere is, and there's other purpose-built tools out there that they accomplish so that deep thinking work. This is not really an efficiency tool inherently. it's a deep thinking tool. So we've built those complex prompts into buttons. So every one of these buttons is a complex prompt that so you can come back to it consistently and just click additional perspectives to get counterpoints on the outputs without having to design that prompt. So that's my only plug. Check it out. You can actually register for free, launch analyses for free. We'd love you to test it, but just wanted to sort of do the side-by-side comparison of that.
Rand, Dan asked the question, did the prompts for each step of the strategy 1 through 5 include files that you had uploaded about heart?
It didn't, but I would get much better, more specific outputs if I had annual reports, recent budgets. And so that's where, especially in the strategic planning process, that's why I say think about your your normal strategic planning process, and usually means pulling together updated budgets, program outputs, sort of community perspectives that you're hearing, staff implications. And if you have those, let's say 5 or 6 sort of core documents from your team leaders, you upload it and you have a really good prompt to say, take that information and help us navigate through some difficult trade-off decisions as we lay out our strategic plan. You're going to, I think, cut your conversation down a bit, or perhaps maybe not even shorten it. You can get to deeper questions more effectively because the synthesis and analysis work can happen so much faster. And you're honestly not basing it just on one program area or department leader's perspective because you're listening often and saying, okay, Bill said it's okay. Like, don't stare off the abyss of the budget problem. You could actually interact with the information yourself in your Gemini interface and say, what questions should I be asking, or what are other perspectives on how to look at the financials? That is, I think, different than what you might get from not necessarily negative, but a biased perspective on financials, or a program leader is going to want to say either it's worse than we think, or we're doing great, don't worry about it. Like it creates more access points to the information, I think that is a bit game changing. We're down to 3 minutes. I can come off share, or if people want to see something specific, we can dive in. And, we moved pretty fast through sort of simple sort of introduction, but also some complex use cases.
While people type or go off mute to ask questions, my plug for Complere Studio. What we're showing you guys here with Google Workspace is assuming that you have the policies and governance written in your organization that allow you to have access to certain files to share. If that's something you don't have, we are launching a workshop, 3 series workshop that starts exactly with that, with AI governance, AI policies. If you haven't asked the question to bring your IT teams into the conversation yet, please do it. There is some IT configurations and some work that needs to happen on the background so you can have full access to folders, to Gemini, etc. You're already paying for the subscription, so I encourage you to leverage it, but make sure that there's something written to protect the organization. So that's something that we're going to launch in early June. And if you do have it, take full advantage of it.
I just put the link to the 3 session series in the chat, so you can click on it, read about it. Um, I mean, it's hard when the tools are coming at us hard and fast to know like how to step back. But highly encourage you to find your grounding, either join us in that, or make sure you're sort of stepping back from sort of tools and finding your process. So. With that, thank you to everybody for taking the time. I hope to see you in the other sessions. Will, thank you. Great job. Appreciate all the
Yes.
insights. Have a great day, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.